Hi guys, so if you're watching this, you'll realize same outfit, same hair as my last video. I'm filming them both in the same night, and I'm filming in front of our sliding glass doors because right now I don't have a bookshelf to film in front of, so I guess I'm not BookTube official. But speaking of BookTube, if you saw the title, it's all BookTube's fault. BookTube taught me about this site called BookOutlet. Sounds harmless, right? Sounds good. Yeah, I'm going to show you something in my bullet journal. These are all the books I've already ordered from BookOutlet. It's a problem. I'm telling you, but it's kind of a good problem. I'm going to show you the books that I've gotten so far. Don't worry, it's not that whole list. And I am also going to show you really quickly 3 other books that I've gotten that I did not get from Book Depot. I got from my other favorite store, Target. Target, do you love Target? I love Target. I'm currently reading this one, The Hazelwood, and this has, someone said something about it being an Alice in Wonderland retelling. I don't think so far. It's got a lot of hype. It's good. I like it so far. I'm about halfway through. And it's definitely an interesting book. It's definitely different. It is about this girl, and her grandmother wrote these really dark fairy tales, and her mother goes missing, and it has something to do with the stories that her grandmother wrote. And she has to befriend, well, she was already kind of friends, but she has to like talk to this kid at her school who knows a lot about her grandmother's stories, and they go on this adventure to solve the mystery and hopefully find her mother. So, and it's beautiful. That's undeniable. The other book that I bought recently was The Taster. This is a World War II era book, and if you were a good German woman, you either got married, had babies for Germany, or you somehow worked for the Nazis. And this woman gets a particular job, and she works at Hitler's mountain retreat, and she is part of the crew that tastes all his food to make sure he's not being poisoned. However, she doesn't agree with Hitler, and she starts to hang out with some other people who don't, and it gets a little tricky from there. This was a book that I was interested in. It was Target. If you have their Cartwheel app, look. Sometimes they have books that are 5% off. 5% isn't much. But if you have a Target Red Card, you get another 5% off. And most of their books are 20% to 30% off the market price anyway. So 20% off plus 5% off plus 5% off, it ends up being a good deal. I also bought The Witch Doesn't Burn in this one. And this is the second series by Amanda Lovelace. And her first one was called The Princess. Oh, guys, I should have been better prepared. The Princess Saves Herself in this one, obviously. And I'd heard about these and I was kind of like, nah, poetry's not my thing, because this is a book of poetry. And you'll see there, 20% off, plus another 5, plus it was in the Cartwheel app for another 5. This book is fabulous. If you are at all feminist, if you are at all kind of upset about the world and how things are going and that type of thing, without getting too much into politics, get this book. I haven't read all of them yet. I'm going to. I have read a few of them. I love them. As soon as I read one, I want to share it immediately. It talks a lot about what we teach women, girls, and what's expected of us. And so it's called The Witch Doesn't Burn in this one. And the back says, burn whoever tries to burn you. Good advice if you ask me. Now, the bulk of things. Hope you're comfortable. I'm sitting on the floor. I'm not quite that comfortable, but I have a lot of books to talk about. Sarah's Key. Sarah's Key is a very well-known World War II story. Sarah is 10. The French police come to get them. She hides her brother in a cabinet, saying she'll be back soon. I don't think she ever comes back from what I'm getting. And then 60 years later, an American journalist comes, and somehow their stories intertwine. Yeah. And it's kind of a neat sized book. Like, it's really skinny this way. The Aviary. If you missed my last video, I read a lot of different types of books. In fact, this is a middle grade book. This is clearly an adult book. You are going to see YA books. You saw a poetry book. It's just what I do. This is a book that has been on my to be read list since before I knew what a to be read list was. And it involves a girl, and there's birds that she's afraid of in the aviary, and she lives with the magician's widow. Look at the cover, isn't it pretty? The Cavendish Home for Boys and Girls. So this girl is... And my camera died. So the Cavendish Home for Boys and Girls. There's a girl named Victoria, and she is very neat and perfect and likes things to be that way. And she has this friend named Lawrence, and he's messy and kind of just like a hot mess. And so she's going to make him perfect. But then he goes missing. And he's not the only kid who's been missing. Other kids go missing, and they go into the Cavendish Home for Boys and Girls, and they either come out smarter, prettier, and better, or they never come out at all. Cute story. The Book of Speculation. So this is... Okay, here's a good example of why BookOutlet's dangerous. This is on sale at Target right now for full price. I'm pretty sure I paid like $4 for it. So this is about Simon Watson, and he gets a book of speculation from someone, and it talks about his family, like mermaids who had drowned in the circus. His sister has already joined the circus, and he starts to think maybe there's something going on in his family history that he needs to know about. And it's a book with a picture of books, and I love books about books. The War That Saved My Life. This is another middle grade book, and Ada is 10 years old. Her mother is humiliated by her clubfoot and keeps her in the house. When war is coming, she does all of these things so that she can go with her brother to live with this woman named Susan, who takes them in. And kind of the thing is, will they be able to stay with Susan, or are they going to have to go back to their evil mother? There is a sequel to this, and I'm excited to read that. Another middle grade, The Forbidden Library. Alice's father dies. She goes to live with her uncle. There is this amazing library, like the kind of library I dream about, and she wants to go in there. But she's told it's the one place she can't go. But a talking cat lures her in. A talking cat, we'll see. And she ends up inside a book. Again, books about books, one of my weaknesses. And so her adventure begins, and there's at least a sequel to this, if not a series, so hopefully that will be good. Wildwood. This is also a middle grade book. This is a middle grade book. I thought, oh, I'll grab that. Won't be a big deal. This is a chunky book. This is as big as my face. And so this is about Prue McKeel, and her brother is stolen into the wilderness called the Wildwood, and she has to go and with her friend Curtis and find him. Giant book. There's a sequel to that too, because it's not long enough. Our Chemical Hearts. This one's really interesting because this is a kind of a romance. Okay, this video is going to be janky AF, and not just because it's my first video or my first haul, but because now I've switched to filming on my iPad because my phone kept filling up and it kept dying and blah, blah, blah. So this is what you get. Okay, next book that I was trying to talk about before I was so rudely interrupted. Our Chemical Hearts. Our Chemical Hearts is an interesting book to me because it talks about kind of what you think you'll look for in love and waiting for the right love and then finding somebody and it's not who you expected but you fall in love, but it is told from the male perspective. And I don't feel like we get enough teen male voices. It was written by a woman, so it's not really an authentic voice, but it's still an interesting take on things. And I think it was like 99 cents, so, you know, duh. And don't worry, there's a whole box full still. Furthermore, by Tahara Mafi. I have not read Tahara Mafi's Shatter Me series. I'm not sure I will because it doesn't like scream out to me as something I need to read, which isn't to say, there goes that stupid phone that won't work. It can ding though. Anyway, Shatter Me just doesn't scream out as something I want. Now, however, look at this book. This is a beautiful, beautiful book. So this is, what is the girl's name? It's Alice. Okay, can we talk about the name Alice? Now, if I ever had a daughter, her name was going to be Alice Jane. Alice from Alice in Wonderland, Jane from Jane Eyre, two of my favorite books. And I love the name Alice. But I can't even count how many of these books have Alice or a version of Alice as the main character's name. It gets a tad confusing. So anyway, Tahara Mafi, well-known author, she is writing about this world where color is sort of power, and color is missing from Alice. Obviously, you can see on the cover. And so her father has been missing for 3 years, and she has to go find him. And just look, you have to read a book that beautiful. It's like a rule in life. Okay. The Inventor's Secret by Andrea Creamer. And Britain still rules the colonies, and revolutionaries are hanged for treason, and there are rebels risking their life for everything. It's the beginning of a series. If you look at her collar, you can tell that there's going to be some type of mechanics. Every chapter has this image in the background. So this was one that definitely I wouldn't have bought except for BookOutlet, but I saw it I wouldn't have bought if I hadn't seen it on BookOutlet, but their prices are so good, and you find books that you never maybe even would have heard of, including this one, Big Fat Disaster. Fat girl, fat book. You see where this is going? But her father is a politician. He ran off with a younger woman, and so then something embarrassing happens to this girl, some kind of video, and I'm guessing it's making fun of her being fat, of course, because we all know that's great. So this book is either going to make me really happy because it's going to handle that well and be a good story, or it's going to make me really mad because it's basically going to make fun of fat people some more. So it'll either be a big fat disaster in a good way or not so good, but I'll let you know. Daisy Goodwin's The Fortune Hunter. I have watched all but 2 episodes of Victoria on PBS, and Daisy Goodwin wrote that as well. She also wrote The American Heiress, which I thought, I'm not that interested. And then my mother-in-law, who is a huge reader, saw this book and was telling me that The American Heiress is like a fabulous book. And if I like Downton Abbey, I should read it. And so I'll probably get that at some point too. But anyway, this one is The Fortune Hunter. And so there's 3 people, this Empress of Austria and an English heiress and the man that they both love. So it's a love triangle. But I really like Victoria, and I really liked the writing, so we'll see. What's next? The Girl from Everywhere. Another book I'd never heard of, and another book that I cannot wait to read. So this is a book about Nyx, and her father has a magic ship, and my cat is meowing right below me, so sorry about that. Hi, kitty. So her father has a magic ship that can take them anywhere in the world, anywhere in an imaginary world, at any point in time. And the one point in time he really wants to get back to is to, bless you, kitty, is to back to Nyx's mother in Honolulu. However, Nyx is confused and concerned that if this happens, she will cease to exist. So obviously that's going to be, you want your father to be happy, and maybe you want to see your mother, but if you're not going to exist, what happens, and how does that affect time and space and all of that stuff? And I think there might be a sequel to this. I could be wrong. And Duels and Deception. So this is from Swoon Reads, which right there, who doesn't want to read something that was promoted by Swoons? And this girl, Lydia, has her whole life planned out. She's going to marry the man her father wants her to, and she's going to do this and blah, 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 as is typical of that time. And then she's kidnapped. And so is the law clerk who is helping her draw up her marriage contract. And she tries to stay on the good side, but she kind of likes this law clerk, and that's not in her plans. So I imagine, I feel like it'll probably be predictable, but fun. And let's see, The Accident Season. Now, this is one I really want to read because I am not sure what the heck is going to happen in this book. So every October, for this girl named Kara, bad things happen in her family. They call it the accident season. And one year her father died. That's a pretty bad accident. And other times they just get cuts and scrapes. But something is happening. Her best friend, and her ex-stepbrother are all turning 17. And fantasy and reality start to blur, and secrets are threatening to be revealed, and I don't know, sounded interesting. Again, I think it was a 99-cent one. I have a problem. I admit it. And you may remember from my last video, or I might have even mentioned it in this video, I think my last video, Alice in Wonderland. If it's an Alice in Wonderland retelling, I'm probably going to buy it. This is Queen of Hearts, the beginning of a series by Colleen Oakes, and it's Evil is Rising in Wonderland. And it is the story of Dinah, who is a princess who will one day be queen. And she is not evil yet, but we know where it's going. And so it's her story, and it's definitely before Alice, so it's not going to involve any of the story that we know. But I can't remember what comes next in the series, but I do know that there are more. Oh, Blood of Wonderland is the next one. So if I like this, I will pick that up. And I'm so excited about this book. Okay, Jane Steele. You've probably seen it if you do watch any BookTube. And this is, okay, it says Jane Eyre gets a dose of Dexter. So Jane Eyre, as I mentioned, one of my favorite books. And it gets kind of a reworking where Jane is a serial killer. I have no idea how that's going to happen. Everybody that reads it loves it. The name's written in orange, my favorite color. I like the cover. And it's about Jane Eyre, so I had to get it. And I swear all these books are about to fall on top of me. So if you just see the next image is just me going, ah, you know, maybe I'll edit that out. All right. And let's see what's next. Oh, so if you watched my March wrap-up video, what I read in March, I talked about reading the last two books in the Dorothy Must Die series. These are Dorothy Must Die series, Dorothy Must Die Stories, Volume 2 and Volume 3. I don't have Volume 1 yet because it just wasn't on here, but each of these has 3 sort of little novellas in it, and it's about other characters that were in the books, so you don't have to read them in order. So I'm excited to kind of use those just to like sort of insert in between books and kind of bring me back to that land because I do love it so much. I'm seeing the box, so we're getting there. Sweetly. So this book is part of, it's not really a series, I don't think, but it's kind of the world of these tellings of Sisters Red is another book by Jackson Pierce. And there are 2 others, which I cannot get my hands on, but I'm going to eventually. I loved Sisters Red. And this one is a retelling of Hansel and Gretel, but it's Gretchen and Ansel. And they're trying to escape the forest, but things happen. And it really, like, what I loved about Sisters Red is that it was such a different story. Like, it was a retelling, but it was definitely a story on its own. So I'm hoping for the same thing from Sweetly. I'm hoping to get my hands on the other 2, which are like Ice Cold and the other one, Fathomless, which I think is a Little Mermaid retelling. So excited for that one. How many times have I said I'm so excited in this book review, guys? Have any of you been counting? Victoria Ayard's Red Queen. Everybody's talked about it. There's Silver Bloods, there's Red Bloods. The Red Bloods can't do magic. Only Silver Bloods can. But, well, they have supernatural abilities. I don't like making them nearly gods, apparently. And so our main character does something supernatural, but she has red blood. So the king makes her pretend to be this long-lost silver-blooded princess. And it goes on from there. I don't know. It's a whole series. And people seem to be very divided about this book. Either they're like, yes, read this, or they're like talking about it because this book is a better version of that, or it's sort of like it, but better. So see what I think. I didn't buy any of the rest of the series because we'll see what I think. Look at this book. Worlds of Ink and Shadow. I mean, look at the image and the oh, yes. And it is about Charlotte, Branwell, Emily, and Anne Bronte, who, of course, Charlotte wrote Jane Eyre. And so their brother starts to go mad, and they are, like, it's a suspense fantasy about the Brontes. I don't need to know anymore. I don't know anymore, but I'm gonna read it. All right, last paperback is Etiquette and Espionage, Finishing School, Book the First. This is another one that I had on my Amazon wishlist for a really, really long time. It is about a 14-year-old, so I'm guessing it's YA, and it's, yeah, apparently her curtsy is in a, blah, 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 blah. Her atrocious curtsy is an embarrassment to the family name. Tragic. So she gets sent to finishing school. But finishing school is apparently where they learn about death, diversion, and espionage. So I'm there for that. And this cover is so pretty. Which brings me to the second book in the series, which I didn't realize I was buying in hardcover because I'm one of those people, like so many, where I like having all hardcover, all paperback, whatever. But Curtsies and Conspiracies. It was cheap. I really think I'm going to like this series. So I dove in. We'll see how it goes. Let's see. Another book that is very popular around the booktubes is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So a couple things about this. You will see that it has a Target sticker on it because BookOutlet is trying to save money without having to raise their prices. And they used to basically pay somebody to peel stickers off of books that were coming from stores. And they're like, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. And we don't have to raise our prices. I'm good with that. I can peel that sticker off. I can leave that sticker on. I don't really care. So this is about, well, I'm going to give you the same like basic description I've heard from everybody. It is like Elizabeth Taylor type character, and she's never told her story, and she picks this unknown author to tell her story, and apparently it's a really great book. I heard it has some representation because I think there is a same-sex relationship in it, which there were a few others that I meant to mention that for, because I really like when people tell me about that about books, like different groups represented, either different sexual preferences or different races or different cultures, that type of thing. Like a big one going around right now is Arusha and the something. Rick Riordan's imprint is put it out. It's not quite out yet, and I so wish I had an early copy because it looks amazing. But it is from a different culture, and it's not a Greek mythology. It's not a like Roman or Egyptian mythology. So I really like when people tell me what books have in them. So sorry I didn't do a great job of that before. If there's any more in here, I'll let you know. A Mad Wicked Folly. Someone mentioned this, and it looked good. It's really pretty. Again, this is another, Victoria Darling. She has a charming fiance, a house full of servants, a secret that could ruin her forever. The only thing she doesn't have that would make her happy is a mad, wicked folly. And I believe it's another one. Yeah, she poses nude for an art class. Scandal. And so her parents are quick to marry her off, but before they can, I don't know, something happens. She wants to be an artist, which is pretty cool. Look at the pretty dress, right? Let's see. Rebel Mechanics, All is Fair in Love and Revolution. This is the first book in a series. Again, beautiful. What if British? I am filming this at like 1 a.m. I have toddlers. I am up way too late, but it's the only time it was quiet enough in my house to film this. What if British magic kept the American Revolution from ever occurring? Which is kind of similar to, that other book I told you about. But in this one, there is a definite steampunk kind of thing going on because the Magisters have ruled the colonies. It's 1888, but underground mechanics, scientists, and engineers are developing non-magical source of power via steam engines and electric dynamos, and they want to use that to get their freedom. And she gets a job, Verity, our main character, gets a job working for a, what are they called? Yeah, I'm so good at this, you guys. A Magister's family, and one of the family members is definitely a little sympathetic to the rebel cause, and she gets tied up in that. So I think this should be a really cool idea. Like, what if Britain had magic and we never got our independence? I don't know. Let's find out. Lock and Maury, another Sherlock Holmes retelling. This is a thing with me. I admit it. I have a type. I have a book type. My husband would tell you, yeah. I have a husband type. I don't have a boy type. I have a book type. Old, married, boring. Got it. This is, so I believe this is modern day, like contemporary, and again, they're school age, and it's James Moriarty is the girl, and Sherlock Holmes is the man, and they get involved solving crimes. This is the beginning of a series. I am such a judge a book by its cover. I don't know if I would have ordered this if I had seen the cover first, but I had read about it and I really wanted to read it. But like, they don't look like interesting people. I don't know. I don't want to hang out with them. So I'm just going to ignore them and read the book anyway. Next, 2 more books. That's it. Just 2 more, guys. You can make it. Stealing Snow by Danielle Page. So the Dorothy Must Die author wrote this, Stealing Snow, and I originally thought, sorry, my leg was asleep. I originally thought that it was going to be like a Snow White retelling. It is not. It is a Snow Queen retelling. So I'm a little bit less familiar with that story, but this cover is pretty. And I really like the way Danielle Page writes. At last, but definitely not least, My Lady Jane. So this is kind of a comical retelling of what maybe should have happened to Lady Jane Grey. I have heard nothing but great, great reviews of this, and I think it looks great. I'm super excited about it, and I'm even more excited because their next one is called My Plain Jane, and it is, guess what, about Jane Eyre. Yeah, if it's a Jane Eyre book, I probably either want it or have it. And so, saying that, I just ordered 24 more books from BookOutlet. So there will be another BookOutlet haul in maybe a couple weeks. But I am so glad you watched this if you did take the time to watch it. I know it was a lot of books. They're kind of all over the place, which is, to me, interesting. I like people who kind of read everything because I feel like then you can share your opinions. You're not just saying, what's an example? Okay, there was a girl who was talking about, oh, this YA book, I don't really like it because I've read this like scenario in so many YA books. Well, if you read every YA book, you are eventually going to get sick of them because they do have a lot of the same tropes in them. However, that doesn't mean it's not a good book. So somebody who doesn't read all the YA might really like it. So I feel like I can say, okay, I don't know what's a good example. Okay, I don't read like a super ton of fantasy, but this looks like a really good fantasy book. So I'm going to judge it based on itself, not because I've read every fantasy book ever. And so I think that's useful. I think that's something that I can add to BookTube. One of the sad things about this pile of books is that I'm in the middle of the Hazelwood, but another thing that BookTube got me addicted to, or well, not really addicted to, but taught me about was this website called NetGalley. NetGalley, you go on and you can ask publishers essentially for arcs of their books to review. And I went in there and I was like, yes, I want to read these books. So I asked for this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and asked for a ton of them. I've been approved for about 20 altogether. But I didn't realize that then you have like the score on there. And so it's the percentage that you've given feedback for versus the amount that you have waiting. I would have asked for less because right now it looks like I'm terrible because I only have 20% feedback. Well, I've given 5 feedback. I just am stupid and requested like 40 books. And a lot of them I'm super excited to read, so I wouldn't want to give them up anyway, and I can't wait to read them, but I feel like I need to read those because I need to, A, get my score up, because if you have a good score, you're more likely to get accepted by authors, and I've been turned down from some of the books that I was so excited about, like Legendary, the sequel to Caraval. Yeah, still bummed about that one. But I want to do it for that reason, and I want to do it because I do want to give the feedback before the books come out. So I'm trying to balance reading that with reading these books because I bought them and I really want to read them, and I wouldn't have told you about them if I didn't think they were good, because that's the thing. I will tell you if a book is bad. I just reviewed a kid's book, so I do also ask for arcs of kids' books that are appropriate for my sons because they love to read, and I figure you probably don't get as much feedback on that because most people are like, who cares, it's a kid's book. I just reviewed this book. It was called Do Princesses Build Sandcastles, I think. It was a terrible book. My kids were like, what? And not because they're boys and it was a princess book, because they don't mind princess books, but because it didn't really make any sense. Like, it didn't have a repeating thing. It randomly talked about all these different things with the ocean but didn't show them. It just wasn't good, and I basically reviewed it as, I don't see why this book exists. It adds nothing to the canon of children's literature, and I would not buy this for anybody. So there's that. I will tell you if I don't like a book, that's for sure. Now, for those of you who sat through this, who are my normal crafty followers, as I said in my last video, the next thing I'm going to film will be short, but it will be showing you the current state of my craft room. I'm so embarrassed to even show you. It's definitely not the only room in our new house that is not unpacked, though. But it will explain a lot about why there's not been any crafting happening. Just this bullet journal. That's it. My markers and my bullet journal. That's all I can manage these days. I'm trying. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any book recommendations based on what you've seen that I like, or want any more info or have ideas of what you'd like to see on my channel, books, crafts, life. Like I said, I'm probably not going to start doing vlogs until we're allowed to show the boys' faces, because they're 2 and keeping them out of the frame is just not an option because they're constantly climbing all over. But I'm really excited to get back to doing YouTube videos, and I can't wait to hear from all of you, and I hope you are all well. Have a great day. Bye.